When you're trying to get summary information out of large amounts of data, sometimes a single cell problem can cause formulas not to work. In this worksheet, we're interested in the sales for column B for 2012. When we click column B, we're not even using formulas, but we are getting some good information down here at the bottom of the screen. That's handy. We're interested in the total maybe, almost 8.9 million. And you have control over what's displayed here simply by right-clicking. You can check or uncheck some of these choices in this section right here. But we're also interested in sales for 2013. So we'll click column C and be disappointed in contrast because we're not seeing nearly as much information here. So why is this? As we scroll down column C here, eventually we encounter an error. Now, how many other errors are there like this in here? Different kinds of errors too, possibly. Maybe division by zero, some others, that sort of thing. We might have tens of thousands of rows. It sure would be great if we could ignore those cells and come up with some totals. And as we write a formula here, we can certainly write a formula for column B using the Home tab, for example, the Auto Sum button. We can easily come up with totals for column B. That's great. We'll try this on column C. There's Auto Sum. Click column C, but it doesn't work. In the same way that it didn't work on the status bar either. But fortunately, there is a function called aggregate. Now, if you had heard about this function or heard its name, or maybe you clicked the Formulas tab and happened to discover it in the Math and Trick group here, aggregate, look at the description, returns an aggregate in a list or a database. That really doesn't tell us a whole lot, does it? But it's just the function that we need right here. Equal AG, immediately we see it. We can just press tab to pop it into place. Then we see a list of 19 numbers followed by various statistical measures. Certainly for many people, the most common ones will be sum, that's number 9, 1, or average. So if we want a sum in this case, we'll simply put in a 9, then a comma, and then we get another list of 7 entries here. And recognize that the 6th one, ignore error values, is exactly what we want here. There's also one for ignoring hidden rows, not for hidden columns though. And number 7 here covers both hidden rows and error values. We only need, in this case, 6, so we could use 6 or 7. I'll just use 6 here to ignore the error values, comma, and then the range that we're looking at, in this case, column C, there it is right there, enter. And so that's the total for column C. We'd probably format it like this up here. Simple drag with the right mouse button down here, copy the format. So that really takes care of what we need here. Now, ultimately, of course, we do need to clean up column C, but it does allow us to come up with totals and ignores the empty cells. Now, let's do something a little bit different in columns I and J, and let's also pretend for the moment that we're in a totally different workbook. So I'll simply hide the columns to the left by dragging across, then right-click and hide. And now we're simply looking at this data. In J17, there's a total. For the moment, it's accurate. But what if before printing this list, we want to hide a couple of the rows? We just don't want to show the data for Larry Wood and James Abbott. Maybe they've just left, but their names are still on the list, something like that. So we'll drag across these 2 rows, and I'm going to right-click and hide. And as I do, keep an eye on that total, the 577,000 that we see below the list. It stays the same. And so if we were making a presentation, or if we printed this, some sharp-eyed observer might say, you know, I don't think those numbers add up to 577,000. What's going on here? Well, we do want it to add up to the appropriate amount. Oddly enough, if you drag across these, you will see a correct total in the status bar. It's 489,800. That's the number we really want to see here. And the sum function is not giving us that total. But of course, aggregate will. Once again, type equal AG, that's good enough. You can tab in the remainder here. This time we want to do a sum, it's a 9, then comma. We want to ignore the hidden rows. That's option 5. 5, comma, and the data we're looking at, the data right here. And as I press enter, we're not going to be seeing 577,000 anymore. We will see the correct total, 489,800, that we had seen previously when we highlighted these cells down in the status bar. So the aggregate function has at least 2 great tools. One we just saw here for not counting the data in hidden rows, and previously, and perhaps more powerful, the idea we want to add up or tabulate data and ignore the errors that exist there. So the aggregate function covers both of those capabilities.